So you can begin the session.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon with none other than Ma Anand Sheela, who's recently written her book, By My Own Rules, which is about her experiences of setting up old age homes in Switzerland and literally beginning her life from scratch, rebuilding it, and, being successful also at, not only a new business, but also helping so many people that she's come across in the past 3 decades. So, welcome to this live chat, Sheila, and thank you so much for making time for this.
I thank you, Milee, for bringing me to this point. Without your help and support, I don't think it would be possible.
Well, it's been a pleasure knowing you and working with you. And in fact, just before this dialogue, we were talking about the experience of, writing, publishing, and marketing the book. And you've always been so full of energy and, supportive through the entire process. And I think it's also a learning for all of us. So to begin, our conversation today, I would like to thank, pragatiE Vichaar and Shabri Prasad Singh, for inviting both of us to talk about a book and also to talk about, relationships, commitment, because the topic for today is why are more and more people commitment phobic? Is it just sex for the city? And I found the theme quite intriguing because I think we all are seeing how relationships have been changing over the decades, and how people are looking out for maybe some of the same thing, but some different things also from each other. Sheila, you've seen so many people in your life and career. How have you seen relationships evolving over the decades?
Well, for me, relationships are not just one way or the other. Relationship can begin only when love and trust exist. For me, when a person gets involved with a personal conflict, then it is time for one to look at oneself and come clear. And when one self is clear, the relationships will be clear because they will be based not just in conflict, but in trust and tolerance.
No, of course. I think, trust is the basis of any relationship, and honesty as well, I think these are the founding pillars for any good relationship, strong relationship. And I don't think we're talking only about lovers, I think we are looking at relationships in general, with your family, your friends, your colleagues, at your workplace. I think, the same holds true. So why don't you tell us a bit about, your relationship, Sheila, and, the first time, you fell in love, or, what was it that, you felt, actually made you realize that, this is the person for me, and, I have feelings for that person?
Well, my first relationship was with this American young man, Chinmaya. That was his sannyas name with Bhagwan, Chinmaya. And I met him at a very young age, and he was maybe 21, 22 years old. And one of the first issues I dealt with him was his honesty. He was suffering at that time, at that age, with Hodgkin's disease, which is a type of lymph cancer, lymph nodes cancer. he didn't want to begin relationship with me because doctors had given him 1.5 years to live. And for a young girl of 18, 19 to confront it was a shock. But then immediately my heart said, you are not in love for security here. So when you are in love, enjoy the time you have, 1.5 years with him, than to worry about your whole life's relationship. And suddenly that made logical sense to me. And we were big in logic those days. And that's how we met. And we lived together 13 years together. Wonderful 13 years. I had a lot of fun. Lots of fun together.
So, I mean, that's the thing. I think we never know what's going to happen tomorrow in life, isn't it? I mean, you can't, that's the beauty of life, that's the thrill of life. And that's why we say that life is an adventure, because we can never predict what's going to happen tomorrow. And you had more than a decade of, happiness with Chinmaya, and you've spoken about it in the book as well. And you made the commitment because you started your relationship on the foundation of honesty. So I think it was, probably easier for you. But there's also, I think, pain that comes from breakup, and when the heart is broken, and every relationship, doesn't end, smoothly or in the way we want, or both, partners want. So I think, pain is also something that, most of us have to endure with. And I think that, and I remember it's the first rule in your book too, that pain cannot be, avoided, and it has to be endured, and everyone has to go through it. So do you think that because of fear of pain, some people don't want to make commitments, or that is what stops them?
It is my experience. It is not just the fear of pain. Main reason people continue the relationship, it may be with parents, it may be with children, it may be with lovers and husbands, is more a security. People are looking for security and comfort.
Yeah.
Not just material comfort, but emotional comfort. And there too, I must say, I'm a perfect example of it. When I walked away from Bhagwan,
Yes.
I had already had a pain of losing Chinmaya. But few years later, walking away from Bhagwan on the basis that one must not compromise the integrity of oneself.
Yes, but before that, you did take the plunge. You did fall in love, as you say, in the book, and you've told me yourself too. And you were completely, in love with Bhagwan, and you say that love has no limits. That's also one of our rules in the book. Love has no limits. So how was that experience for you? Committing so deeply to another person? Did you ever hesitate? Did you ever think twice?
No.
How was the experience for you?
No, I have then never thought or hesitate. Even today, I don't hesitate. And the last step of walking away from him was because of the first right step of falling in love. It was this intense falling in love which made death bigger than life and life bigger than death, where both had merged into one another. And it was only there, the presence of being near the loved one. It was an incredible phenomenon. It was a phenomenon, I can say, pure nature. I have no words.
I think for the benefit, for all our viewers today, why don't you tell us a little bit, about, how you first met Bhagwan and how was he like? Because, a lot of the current generation has never had the opportunity to see him or meet him, but we all have heard so much, about him. So how was, tell us a little bit about, your first meeting with Bhagwan Rajneesh, and what kind of a person he was, and your experiences with him.
My first meeting, that I call it a first meeting, was in Bombay, where Bhagwan was living. My father brought me there to learn something from him. He was a man of wisdom, man of knowledge. And my father used to say, what you learn from him in one day will be 5 years, 5 lifetimes worth.
Wow.
If he lives longer, he will be a second Buddha. That was prediction of my father. And 100% true. No doubts. And when I met and looked into his eyes, I melted. I put my head in his lap and I said, if life comes to an end this very second, I have lived my life complete. And this satisfaction, this falling deep in his love, had given me the courage to go all the way. Without a thought, without explanation, without excuses. It was the end and the beginning.
Beautiful. And what was he like a person? What were the qualities that, drew you towards Bhagwan? We all know that he was extremely knowledgeable. He was a great speaker, orator. But what was it for you that really made you, fall in love with, Bhagwan? What qualities?
His eyes, when I look in his eyes, I was gone forever. I have no any particular things that I can say about it. I found my place in his being.
How interesting. Coming to, relationships today, Sheela, and how people, now choose their partners. And there's so many considerations now. I know that some of my friends, they have this whole, form, and they have, checklist that they have to tick off before, they get into relationships. So whether they are physical appearance or, person's education, background, people look into a lot of things these days. What do you feel about all of this? What do you think when people, choose partners like this?
Excuse me, I'm all lover and I laugh at this situation. I want to say something before I explain. Just today, I was asked a question, how to love oneself. And I think this is the reason why we need checklist. When you love yourself, you need no checklist, because you simply know when you love, because it is your own inner experience. Checklist is when you go buy yourself clothing, but there too, if a bit of intuition would come, some people would dress even better. They can bring their creativity in it, and it is the same as a relationship. If you need a checklist, then it is going out to shop.
Exactly.
Yeah, and nothing wrong. We live in a consumer culture. Make your relationship as a consumer item and feel free to choose. Then don't talk of commitment. But if you want to talk of commitment, commitment comes only from love. You love your child. And I know, Milee, how you love your child. I've seen beautiful photos of it. And yes. I see it, and there your love is tangible. I can touch it.
Yes, yes.
But no, you absolutely didn't go shopping there.
You can't shop with children.
Exactly.
But,
exactly.
Also, I completely hear you. So, then these are very different things. I think love is a very, in my experience and in my life, what I have little seen, my experience is similar to yours. When you meet somebody and it just happens. I think you can't describe it. You can't, put it into different buckets and tangible qualities sometimes, but it's just there. It's a very powerful connection that, two people feel between each other, and it's undeniable. So that's also been my experience. And this brings me to the other part of our, topic for today, which is about sex and sexuality. And we often, you talk very openly about it. We've had discussions about it too, and how that it is the natural rhythm of life. Sex is a natural act, and we all are here because of, the fact that sex does exist in our lives. So do you think that, sexual desires and love, they're very different? Or I remember actually also, which I'll come to later, I think, after this question, but I did want to ask you about, how do you look at love and sex?
How I look at it, love and sex, my first training comes from my father. And you can read it in By My Own Rules, by Penguin Books.
Yes.
I write about that. It is a natural source of energy, sex. But you have to understand your own sex and sexuality. If you muddle up sex and sexuality with feelings of love and emotions of love, then you are going to trip on it. Keep both separate. Nothing wrong when you have a desire to have a sex with somebody. Be clear about it. Put your conditions. If somebody needs their space after sex, before sex, somebody likes foreplay, somebody likes afterplay, no problem, and don't be shameful or don't think what other thinks about you. Make it a bodily event. Create a ritual for yourself. And by creating a ritual and being true to your ritual, it becomes a sacred event. Whatever you do, don't engage yourself in guilt and punishment or retribution. No. Let people have their own ideas, their own opinion. Don't take it personally. You know yourself, you know your needs, and then go for it with head up.
Absolutely. I think that is what, a lot of, I think the previous generation, even in our generation, sex is somewhat of a taboo, not always discussed very openly, although, we all are supposed to have sex education in schools. But even then in Indian society, I think even parents sometimes hesitate to talk about sex with their children, even now. And there is, a lot of, I think, misgivings or misconceptions about sex, particularly with younger people, as they just get the information now from maybe internet or, in a scattered form. So rather than, I think, go through all of that, it's better to discuss it openly. And, if
Absolutely.
people have questions, they should ask, and, then go into a relationship or sexual relationship with an open mind and informed mind.
Here, let me add one more point, which is very important to know, understand, and protect oneself with. When you are open, honest about your sexuality, you will be viewed as promiscuous. Don't pay attention. Where I think sex becomes a burden and ugly is when you violate somebody's privacy. Mm-hmm. So be very clear. Don't allow any emotional, psychological, or physical violence. Protect yourself from different bacteria and viruses that come through excessive sex or the different partners. Protect yourself. Now, in modern days, there are many things one can protect oneself about it. And be extremely straightforward and honest about your sexuality. There is nothing promiscuous about it. And protect your space. Make it a pleasant experience. Don't feel guilty. This whole concept of guilt comes from Christianity. Avoid that. And if you have conflict that you're cheating on somebody, have an open relationship. In relationship, both parties be honest without jealousy. It is jealousy and competition that kills best part of relationships.
Absolutely, because like I was talking in the beginning, a lot of relationships begin on a good note or a happy note, and then it goes through its highs and lows, and then there are breakups, there are heartbreaks, there is pain, there is loss. So I think that is also the experience that a lot of us, would have gone through. And is, I think, a part of, being in this adventure, taking part in this adventure. So it is, I think, I mean, nothing is perfect there and nothing remains the same, right? Like that also is true, because in your life, in my life, in all our lives, we'll see that how, relationships also evolve, and things don't always remain the same. Uh, there is, a lot of, Bhagwan was very open about, sex, and he
Yeah.
spoke about it quite openly and widely. What was his core philosophy or beliefs with regard to sex?
Sex is a natural event, and use sex potent energy to transform yourself. The way we talk of transformation is to understand. Bhagwan said, understand your sexuality and then go for exploration, and don't feel guilty. I mean, I am a student of my father and Bhagwan, and my mother would add to it, don't feel bitter.
No, absolutely.
No bitterness in relationship will save anything.
And you had a very, very close and beautiful relationship with your parents. And I remember, there is a section in the book where you talk about the fact that your mother knew that she was passing on, and she wanted to look nice for your
Yes,
father. She didn't want, your father to feel sad seeing her condition. So, even in that moment when she was suffering, she was thinking about,
her
your
beauty.
father, and others. And I think that's also so remarkable. I think, it comes out of couples and people being so close to each other. And that brings me to the last question, which is also one of the rules in the book, because we know we've spoken so much about love, sex, and sexuality in the book. You say in the book that, love enough so that you can let go. You know, letting go
Right,
is also not easy, right? Because you get so attached to people,
right.
and you get accustomed, you get used to each other. So letting go can be very painful and difficult at times.
It is painful and difficult because the time we had together, we waste it in conflict. We don't enjoy each other 100%. And now it is already time to go. And in that very last moment, one thinks, oh, I could have done this or I could have done that. And to let go is not easy because one wants to do it. Again, try to make it better. But don't wait for the last moment to make it better. Make every moment your last moment and live it fully. Live it 100%. And that's what, when you do that, then it is easy to let go and not turn bitter.
Now, I think this is very important, I think, but also difficult to do. Sheila, I do feel that it's not easy, because when somebody hurts you and somebody does something that, has, affected you in a big way, or, altered your life course, it's not very easy to forgive and not be bitter and move on. You know, it might take different amounts of time for different people, and some people might not be able to forgive at all. I mean, we've seen this. A lot of people, I think, around us hold a lot of grudges, and they find it very difficult to let go. And I think that sort of manifests within themselves. And I've seen people changing because of carrying that bitterness, and then, that resulting in, sometimes, health issues. They they just get stressed about it, thinking again and again. So I think that is something, I feel this is a very important point, how to let go in relationships and not just be very, very caught up in the whole maze of your revenge or bitterness.
That's where the respect for the other comes. When you respect the other, you will be able to love other more. Where there is freedom for both partner is there, respect will come automatic. And when respect is there, you will understand the changes in other person. And you will be able to let go.
Absolutely. So I think on this note, on this note of letting go and to move on in life, because, life, as they say, is like a river where we just move on from one stage to the other. And like you said, we should just try and make the most of every moment, every relationship, every emotion, and every encounter that we have in our lives. Thank you so much, Sheila, for talking to us today and sharing so openly and honestly, your feelings and your experiences. And thank you for writing by my own rules. It's a pleasure to, go back to the book and read the various chapters. And I request all our viewers today to also get a copy, read the book, and send us your review. Thank you so much again. Thank you again, all of you.
Thank you, Milee. Thank you, the organizers who allowed me this platform. And I thank all the young people for honestly going into their own sexuality and understanding it. It will change your world. It will change your world.
Thank you, Sheila. Okay. With that, we will end our conversation today. But as always, it's lovely talking to you. And even though our conversation was for about half an hour or so, there are so many deep thoughts and learnings that I'm going to carry back with me. And that is what happens when I talk to you every time. So thank you for your love and insights, and keep smiling always.
Thank you, Milee. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.